Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and joining me today is one of my favorite types of guests. Yes, laughed at the jokes the first time around. Will you laugh at the jokes the second? It is the ultra talented Amit Tishler. How you doing?
How are you doing, man? It's not nice to lie to everybody. I mean, come on.
No, returning guest to my fave, man. Admit that you didn't laugh at the jokes.
Thank you.
It's fine. Along for the ride is your co-creator, co-writer, co-conspirator. It's Elliot Sperl. Elliot, how's it going, sir?
It's going fine. Thanks so much for having me here.
You are more than welcome. Right.
I laughed at your joke. It wasn't introduced yet.
All right, okay, cool. Thanks. You already got a couple of points on the meat there already. That's how it works. Let me just get my pen. 2 to Elliot. There we go.
Now it's a competition.
Just saying.
Hope nobody placed bets because I'm going to disappoint.
Wait, I'm laughing.
Or not.
I'm laughing at your jokes. So hold on, that's 2 off me. Oh, it's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong. I mean, it's been a while, sir. Last time you were here, we talked about Eden Frost. How did that go for you? That, from what I saw, the book did extremely well.
Look at that. I just got the trade paperback today. Got it early. It's coming out in 2 weeks. Honestly, it's been a really great ride.
Cool. It's a really good book.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It is.
And Elliot, have you been conscripted into this? Because you're here to talk about your up and coming book that's due out in a couple of months, The Last Wardens. How did this come about? Who approached who?
Ooh, that's a great story, actually. Amit, you want to kick off how we?
Sure, I'll start, and you can pick it up from there. I mean, both Elliot and I come from the animation industry, and we've worked together as, like 2D animators in productions. Like, I think we met on Animals for HBO, and then we worked on like Camp WWE in a lot of the different local studios. And, we just kind of, after a while, found that we have a lot of shared interests and goals. So we decided, hey, we can do more damage as two. So we just united and decided to produce original content, right? Original stories of our own. And it was honestly and that's one of the things that we really overlapped on. It was in any mediums that we're passionate about, whether it's games, TV, comics, really anything, right? And the nice thing is that, each of us brings something else to the table, and we balance each other out really, really well. So that creates a different tone to the work that we do together from, let's say, the work that I do on my own. Isn't that right, Mr. Spence?
Yes.
So you are the damage. Sorry, you go. I was going to just jump in there. So you're the damaging caused duo then, rather than the dynamic
Absolutely.
duo.
Absolutely. Yeah. You read this book,
Sorry, I stepped on Elliot's sauce. Elliot, you were saying, right?
Oh yeah, I was just. I mean, clearly Amit has a real talent, and he's a big history buff, as you saw in Eden Frost. So, this being a 1970s period piece, that's something we could obviously lean into, which is really, really good and fits the title perfectly, which I'm sure we can get into a second. But like Amit said, we have a lot of overlap in our interests, and a lot of that came down to, stuff like monster designs, character designs, which is the stuff that I kicked off with. So. I added a lot of inspirations that I loved growing up, like, Bio Booster Armored Guyver and the Zoinoids from that.
Good call.
Yeah. This is an early 2000s reference, but if you ever remember the movie Deep Rising, the Kraken from the movie Deep Rising, it's not a good movie, but it's still an influence. I'm just going to include it because it's true.
Is that the one with the shark where it goes backwards? What's that one?
That's the one where it's a infested cruise liner with a giant kraken in it. And it has a jet ski that almost explodes. It's great. It has everything.
Sounds. Here we go. Check out. Everyone's checking IMDb as we talk. It's great.
That's also history. No,
I'm just saying, if you want a great ironic watch, it's a big recommendation on my front. But you see that we also kind of included inspirations from Dungeons and Dragons, the monsters and magical items from that. being the 1970s, of course, you're going to see some very obvious references to the Evil Dead, Jaws, weirdly enough, and of course, you're going to see just a smidgen of Scooby Doo, just a sprinkle.
Zikes.
It really all just started when Elliot got me into Dark Souls. Let's be honest.
It's
When you say 70s, you both look at my hair. That's harsh. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I think out of the three of us, I'm the only one that was around in the 70s. So
hey,
yeah.
But you know what? White streak happening here.
Oh,
it's happening in the beard too. You can't see it, but it's happening.
Hey, sorry, Rogue. I forgot about that. Yeah. So, from animation, creature design, history buff, Amit.
Yes.
Monster design, Elliot. They still seem quite separate ideas before you start mashing stuff together, and then think it works better as a comic than anything else. Why comic books for this?
I mean, why not?
Horror
is a pop. But I mean, that's true to everything. Like, look, in the end, like, I think both of us worked in multiple mediums. Like, I also worked in like games, technology. Like, I always view every narrative as medium agnostic. And then it really comes down to where's the opportunity and what's the best way to tell this story or get it out there. Horror is a very popular genre in comic books. So the readership is there and there's interest there. So that's just pragmatic. But also just in terms of what we can do, right? On the page, the things that you can get away with.
No budget, lots of red.
Yeah. You can get away with a lot, honestly, like in both story and in art, you can just do a lot more because you have more freedom, because the medium and just how these teams are constructed, it is a lot more creator driven. And we like to be hands-on.
So, cool. So, Elliot, for me, one of the things, so I see loads of books through Comic Crusaders. They come on, review them, send them on the way, and all that sort of stuff. I find horror books really hard to work, primarily because there's very rare do you get the true jump scare in a comic book. If you're watching it movie-wise, you can see the music changes, and you know there's a door closing, you know there's someone behind it, and yet my wife still jumps a million miles away. There's someone there. You don't get that so much in comic books. So, as writers, how do you kind of try and pace for that? Because people, if you're going into a book that's advertised as being horror tinged, you expect to have some horror. How do you manage to get that kind of shock value in there, do you think?
I mean, I think breaking it, I'm going to break this down into two parts.
Go for it.
Yeah. So first part is obviously on the art front, where we had Rui working on the art. And what we essentially did, because you're right, you lose the tension, you're the person turning the pages ultimately, right? But what we did is something very interesting, where in issue 1, our artist Rui implemented something that we thought was brilliant. And we had it in the script originally, but he took it to another level, which we had to like look at everything again and be like, okay, Amit, we got to redo all 6 issues now and kind of insert this new layout design into everything, which is really fantastic. So you may not have the, the build-up and tension that you get from media like a horror movie, but you also get that same feeling through the layout, going from a very balanced to something that's a bit more chaotic, and then something that just breaks the page completely, which I think works very, very well.
That's a good shout. That is a good shout. I mean, it's kind of Elliot's right. It's my control how fast I turn the page, right? But then obviously when that first initial shock occurs, if you go from like a sedate pace to like furiously through. When you guys write for this, do you plan where that sort of escalation of tension is going to be? Yeah.
So like everything is very much planned in advance, including the entire lore of the world, how we introduce each character, when the tension rises and why that happens, because that all ties to some of the reveals that we do down the line. So it's all very, very calculated. Like, I don't know how, like every writer kind of works differently. We are extremely structured. So when we come in, we already have all 6 issues essentially lined up, bullet pointed. We know where everything is going. We know where the tension points are. We know where the cliffhangers are. So it's very much, it feels like it's abrupt, but it's very controlled. And I think, going back to the question about horror, I feel like horror can be viewed in, by the way, that word, it just always sounds a little too much like horror. Anyway, so going back to horror.
That says more about your exes than mine, I think.
See, like this, but I'm like, all right. So going back to horror, supernatural horror.
Hey, there we go.
There we go.
There you go. So going back to supernatural.
But wait,
horror,
supernatural sounds like Superman, and that photo with him putting his shoes on is quite scary. So
yes, but we won't get a strike on YouTube for that. So
no,
there you go. So for supernatural horror, I feel like you don't necessarily have to scare your audience. That's one way to do it, and certainly that's a lot easier with any medium like that has audio and that is more immersive. But I feel like it also comes from what themes you choose to deal with or what anxieties you kind of choose to trigger. We leaned very, very hard on the drama. Like, when we talked before this, like you mentioned, like, oh, it starts like a nice family drama and then bam, like your life blows apart. Because even without all of the gore that ends up bursting out of Bruce, essentially you have the emotional family drama that, that tension build up and that explosion the minute they have the conflict. Just so happens to coincide with that explosion escalates to something a lot bigger because he brings a lot of baggage in.
Does he?
But right, like that metaphor is. Yeah, I mean, and you'll find out more about that baggage beyond the powers themselves, but it's all tied together because it does act as a metaphor, right? Like for that kind of explosion and that kind of chaos.
So we're talking in a little bit circling, a little bit rhymey. So let's break it down a little bit. The book Last Wardens, it's a 6-issue miniseries from Mad Cave. This is the A cover. The B cover I've used for our backdrop just because I thought the B cover was gorgeous. Not to say that the A cover's bad, I prefer the B cover. What's the the story? What's the main thrust of this then? Family drama meets.
Yeah, it's supernatural horror. How would you do the comparables for this?
Oh, it'd probably be, Something Killing the Children meets The Boys, probably.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
With kind of like some Cronenbergian horror on top,
Yeah, and a little bit of a period piece on top of it that kind of grinds it puts it at a certain time in history. And that's where the historical fiction also comes in. So it's a lot of different things, but if we just have to kind of summarize the plot, I would say like Last Wardens is essentially, think of it like a horror-themed supernatural thriller. And again, the plot is about this team of paranormal misfits who struggle to protect humanity after they basically destroyed its best line of defense. And that's something that's going to be addressed down the line. And this first introduction story essentially focuses on our audience proxy, which is the protagonist, Danielle Pryor. And, she's just a regular small town girl who gets dragged into this incompetent team's bullshit and enlists to help them fight this secret battle for the survival of all mankind. But like with Eden Frost and like with future titles that we're creating together, like everything that we create is we always anchor it with a certain theme or statement. And Elliot, I'll let you discuss that one.
Yeah, I mean, this is a story about failure. It's about chewing it up, spitting it out, and asking for seconds, basically. It's something you kind of see in all the characters. Every issue has, a call out to it. It all circles and orbits that theme, which is great because it's kind of a, it's a defining thing to grapple with failure. It marks us, It's also, going back to the 1970s aspect, it's a timeless theme as well. I mean, it's something that's true back then as it is today,
Because we're all failures, is what.
Yes.
Well, I wasn't that far.
Grappling with failure.
I admit, when you said she's a small town girl, all I thought was living in a lonely world. But
I did not have the courage to go there.
I couldn't say it because I was like, I've interrupted too many people already. I can't say that. But just noticed that you both laughed, so that's more points to everybody. Anyway.
Yes.
At least someone's keeping.
Yeah. It's all right. It's my game. I'm going to win anyway. It's fine.
It's rigged.
It's rigged. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. What was I going to say? Whose idea was it to use the female protagonist in the book? Because there seems to be, I think, some sort of how females are depicted in comic books as being an open wound for many a year now. What was it that made you think, you know what, let's make this character the main character? Bruce has that kind of quality where the whole book's about him, though he's hardly in it. You know, so that tells you how good a character Bruce is, because the whole book is focused on him. You know, that the relationships that people have are because of him. So why have her as that main kind of, as you said, I mean, it's a kind of proxy, so it's the way that have the audience understand what's going on. I get that, but why make a female?
I think, you know, Bruce essentially, like, he's the threat of the story, or he's the tragedy, right?
See,
I wouldn't call him an enemy.
I don't see that. Have I missed it? Because
you'll see it. Don't worry. You'll see it. You're right. Like, he is essentially he is the mystery that kicks things off, but and he becomes part of her crusade. But in the end, what you'll see over time is that he is a representation of one of Danny's biggest problems as a character. Now, just to address the question at first, like, Elliot, I don't think it's not really something that we thought too hard about why female versus male. Like, that's just the honest truth. Like,
yeah,
good. That's exactly the right answer. That is exactly the right answer.
To be honest, I don't remember. I'm like, I don't know. Like, we had the vision when we started. By the way, just for a little bit of background, Last Wardens for us is an old property that we just revised and changed many, many times before we finally got it through. Early versions didn't actually have Danielle in them at all. It was just about the team of Wardens. That's where the focus was, and even the lead character wasn't. It was one of the Wardens that isn't a human, right? At some point we realized that we needed that audience proxy because that human story and that perspective helps tie everything together, and it also helps with, once again, going back to the horror element of it all. This is happening to you. Perfect. This is coming out of nowhere. The Wardens are used to this. This is all they do. Their life is a nightmare.
And as an audience, we're exactly the same. We're used to this sort of thing. So we need to feel, and this is why the drama element is so important of the book, is because you've got to understand the situation that Danny and her father and Bruce, how they all relate to her. And that, to me, is where the real horror is. Not the, I mean, don't get me wrong, the gore's like great, and it's like, you know, they must have read out of red ink somewhere along the line. But, you know, for me, it's that, I don't want to say dysfunction, but it's that kind of, you're buying into this family unit, and then something happens to them. And that raises the stakes.
And it's Danny's life as a whole, because one of the traits that we will basically show more and more over time, because she's a very, like, we'd like to think, very likable protagonist. Like, she's very relatable. She's somebody who's like, she's been stuck there. She's been handling everybody's shit, but she really just wants out, and she wants to live life for herself. But there are all of these things that are just like pulling her back. Her biggest weakness throughout this entire story is the thing that makes her a very endearing character, but it's also her Achilles heel. She doesn't know when to let go. She doesn't know when to admit failure, or she doesn't know when to just go like, you know what? I'm going to step away from the situation. She is incredibly stubborn. And that's going to be a very significant theme of the story as it goes along.
It's interesting to say that, because there's a part in the book, we were talking about inspirations earlier, and maybe Elliot, you can jump on this.
Yeah.
Where she finally decides she's going to leave. She's like, right, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of it. All I kept thinking was Tracy Chapman, Fast Cars.
Wow. Yes.
I'll go to you anywhere. Maybe we can make a deal. I was like, it's Tracy Chapman. She's gone. You know?
I listened to that song on repeat growing up, so that's hilarious. That's great. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. It's funny though that no spoilers, obviously, but that thing gets revisited later on, actually, in I believe issue 5, and we kind of revisit that her perspective on that. So I don't want to give too much away, but it's something that definitely comes back full circle.
It's just a daft observation that that I saw in the book, and that's kind of how my brain works. I'm like, it's cool.
Yeah, she's in the car when I think she says the line too,
Yes.
so it works out perfectly.
I'm not saying
in a fast car, literally.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything. I'm spotted these things. Right, we're going to take a break for one of our other shows before we come back. With this, we'll talk about a horror book. So I think in the mainstream world, things going a little bit scary. So check out the advert for this. It's a No Prize podcast. There you have the No Prize podcast for everything that is Marvel. That includes Disney Plus, X-Men 97, and of course the new event Blood Hunt, where the vampires are taking over the Marvel universe. I don't want to say anything bad about a Marvel book, but I just want to say DC versus Vampires did it first and better. Just saying. Just saying.
It's fired.
Marvel don't pay my wage. Mind you, neither did DC, but hey ho. What can I say? We'll go with that, shall we? How's the we'll get the book up in a sec. So how's the writing work for you guys? Because it's when I speak to a writing partnership, I'm always intrigued how it works. Is someone the plot guy? Is someone the dialogue guy? Is it more holistic than that, and that you just kind of bounce ideas off and try and match the set pieces so that it makes one cohesive unit? How's that kind of work? I will start with Elliot on this one, I think, first, and then go to Amit. Elliot, so how's it work?
Well, we basically break things into domains, is how we essentially do it. I'll actually let Amit jump on this one, I think.
Go on.
Sure. Yeah, we can jump back and forth. I mean,
yeah.
So, look, we have like I said, extremely structured process that honestly gets adopted from experience in production that we both had, both on the TV side and on the technology side. And we're not that holistic. Like, that's the least romantic answer I can give. Like, we're very much organized to a T. So if I had to describe our process, I would say, like, it starts with identifying the components. Like, okay, we are developing something and we want to take it out. We want to show it to publishers. We want to get it out there. What are the components that we need, right? So you start with, well, we need a sizzle deck, right? Or a pitch Bible, something to actually tell the story to the buyer. We need the plotting. So we actually need to draft it out. Who are our characters? What's our story? What details do we actually put into these decks? Doing usually both a verbal presentation and a presentation you can send out, because we want to be very polished when we come in. And even we very often invest in initial designs, whether it's Elliot doing a first pass or we hire somebody to manage and essentially do whatever art is the most complementary for that property.
That's an interesting point. I never even thought about that. You guys are animators. You've worked in animation. How hard is it then to keep your finger off the pencil and stop drawing stuff and let somebody else run with it? That is
very hard, actually. Yeah, you can
really.
I would say so. You always want to have. Yeah, I mean, you want to have some input, but at the same time, it's also important to know when to stop. That is the harder thing to do, I would argue, because putting your foot off the pedal and actually letting someone who is professional and better than you ultimately in the comic space, like actually pushing forward. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's that part's easy. You just have to know when.
Yeah, and you can see the divergence there. Like for me, I love it, right? Like I personally, there are things that are, and this goes back into domain. So I'll address that first. Like the idea of domain expertise and respecting each other's domain expertise is essentially we decide, yes, one person is the lead in a certain domain expertise and the other person follows. So we both do the work on both, but one person essentially has final say or sets the tone. So if we break down and we delegate tasks to each other kind of within each domain. So if we have to like break down the domains of this kind of production process, I would say there's like story or narrative, there's visual, and there's operations. Now, story doesn't just include, hey, the screenwriting. It's also messaging, when we do press, when we do interviews, when we talk about like what are our talking points, what are the things that we care about, what are our themes. So visual doesn't only apply to, hey, visual within the comic itself, the character designs, the tones, and what we want to project. It's also social media campaigns, right? Like how is it going to be projected to the audience when we're going through the sales cycle? And then operations is literally everything else. The legal contracts, the negotiations, identifying buyers. Like, it's not sexy stuff, but that's a big part of it.
Stapling the pages.
What?
Putting staples in the book.
Yeah. It's anything, honestly. It's anything. Putting blood stains in the book. Any decision like that. So we delegate it. And that's a really, really important part for us, because it creates a certain sense of clarity, and we get to delegate to each other or even defer to each other. Now, that also goes back to my general philosophy of this. I like working in teams because I like to focus on the thing that I think I'm the strongest at. And I like working with people that I think can bring something to the table that I can't, whether it's perspective or a talent that, sure, I can draft something up and that artist is a million times better than me. So let's see what I can squeeze out of him so that he can tell the same story. To me, it's not, that part of the process is actually very easy. The thing that's harder for me is when it does reach my domain, I tend to, as Elliot knows, be extremely stubborn and very opinionated, like have a very clear vision of what I want to do whenever I'm focused on something.
So is there a lead? Is the different domains have their own lead? Is there a lead over the whole project, or is it a true 50-50 split?
Yeah. That's the perfect. Just a gif of that is perfect.
I think I've just created
like, no, it's
all right. So
it's something that you don't really think about, honestly.
It's a good call.
Right? I feel like it's a pretty healthy level of delegation in terms of the amount of work that each of us does anyway. So
okay,
each of us brings a different aspect, and it's kind of nice because some stuff I don't have to worry about, and some stuff he doesn't have to worry about, because we just kind of go like, well, that's your thing. You handle that.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on. You're in a horror book when the name of the town is called Bleakwood. It's never called congratulations, horror comes to Happy Valley, does it? No, it's Bleakwood.
That's the sequel.
I tell you what, if you make a book called that, I will buy that.
The last Wardens in the Happy Valley.
The horror of the Happy Valley, a Last Warden special. There we go. So we're getting some sort of hints and tips that not everything is cool in town. And then we meet our main way into the book with Danny and the family. I have to say, your artist was, what's their name?
Rui.
Great.
Yes.
I love the art.
Love the art.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen anything so well put together from an indie book for quite some time.
And the colors too from Francesco is just fantastic. They pop off the page. Really, really well done.
Absolutely love this. And we're not going to go too far into the book because I don't want to spoil it for everyone. It's just so well put together, well observed. The rooms look great. Your colors look great. And of course, the town, Bleakwood, Oregon, I take it. Is that OG? Is that what Oregon?
Yep.
Hey, check me out. Who knows his state?
I can tell you it's not original gangster, so.
I knew that one.
It's not a state yet.
So there you go. And then we have the fast car reference. Woo! It's how hard is it from your point of view, from a writing point of view? Maybe I'm overthinking this, but we've said earlier that the drama has to happen in order for the scare, the supernatural element to have more impact. How hard is it kind of elongating the drama out to get to that punchline? Because I'd be super impatient. I'd be like, right, you get one page, you meet them all. To page 2, scare the crap out of them. Let's go.
Do you want to kick it off?
I mean, I was just saying. I think I think building tension is an art. It's something you kind of see. Obviously, I think it goes past page 7 of what we're able to preview, but you see it. The slow buildup of things going wrong, both between the family and the drama, going hand in hand with the tension of the horror building up at the same time. It's something that's really effective, and I love it. Actually, I think it makes the story more powerful, if anything.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. I wouldn't be able to do it. I would be very much like, right, next. I would be the one that'd be like fast forward to the horror bit. That's kind of how it works for me.
I think part of and again, this comes from like really planning it in advance on our part, but there is once again the unromantic, unfuzzy trick to it. The first pages that you show that tell you something here is wrong and something is coming already tells you, oh, it's not just a family drama, just you wait. That keeps you waiting, right? So that's a hook. And it's just a technique, right? So at that point, you're like, okay, it's going to be here any day now. But now becomes the challenge of like, how do we get you invested in the drama so that you wait long enough so that once we hit you with it, it's satisfying. And that's the fuzzy part. That's the part where you hope it resonates with the readers and you hope that they like the protagonist and that they like the characters and that they understand the world. And before they know it, you throw them that curveball and they're like, whoa, I was just getting used to this. Like that's that balance you're playing.
6-issue miniseries, The Last Wardens, they're the kind of the unsung heroes of the book. Does that mean there are more Last Wardens if they make it out alive down the line? Or is that to be confirmed?
Without spoiling anything, we hope so.
Well, I tell you what, let's not ask that question.
we hope so.
Some of them might. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say who.
Okay, right.
Survived.
Forget I asked.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Mad Cave? Because I think Mad Cave are one of those studios that are absolutely the bee's knees. They've got the finger on the pulse. They've got a diverse portfolio of books. And I always tell loads of people when they do Kickstarters and say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's about finding the right publisher as much as it is anything else. What a Mad Cave like for you?
Oh man,
guys,
so great.
You start because you've already.
Yeah, no, it's working with Mad Cave is incredible, and obviously Meat has worked with them before, so he's probably can go into more depth. But being first time, fantastic. Our editor James knocks it out of the park every week, keeps things on track. They're killing it on the social media front as well. Yeah, it's fantastic. We love it.
So, Elliot, is this your first comic book then?
First comic that is being released. This is a little bit weird. We have
what have I just stepped into? Oh my God.
No, it's good. It's good stuff. Actually, it's great.
Oh, okay, all right.
We're very lucky. We have 2 other titles coming out through Humanoids coming out in 2025. You'll be hearing about those soon. But this, weirdly enough, was written, I believe, last, but is coming out first. So a little bit weird, but also very exciting. It's a great time. Yeah.
It's because the other 2 are OGNs and they just always production just takes longer. So we technically started on the Humanoids titles long before we even signed with Mad Cave. And we've been at it for the last few years. So we've been working with them until now. Then once we were done with writing those door stoppers, we started working with Mad Cave, and it was like Eden Frost and then Last Wardens, and now those 2 are coming first, and the Humanoids books are coming right after. So that's how that ended up just working out.
I mean, just for clarification point, when you say OGN, you mean original graphic novel, not the state of Oregon, right? You're not publishing.
No, not the state. No. Also not an original gangster.
I can see where this is going to go, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just going to go TU, tits up, as we say. So, comic book wise, you've worked animation, you've got your horror things going on, you've got your inspiration elements coming on. Are you guys reading comics right now? If so, what are you reading? What is floating your boat?
Ooh, wow.
Department of Truth.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've been on a weird. I've read these before, but I've been on a weird kick going over them again. A lot of Junji Ito short stories.
All right, okay.
I love. horror, obviously Junji Ito. No, it's a no-brainer. And going back to Dark Souls, I love the meme of like, the creator of Dark Souls, I'm sorry, Hayao Miyazaki versus the creator of like Dark Souls and Junji Ito, where they have this wholesome personality. Then you have like Hayao Miyazaki, who's just like hilarious memes if you ever see them. But yeah, I think I've been on that kick recently because body horror is obviously just it's so visceral and fun. I can't get enough of it.
Cool, excellent. Amit?
Yeah, and I've been digging into Department of Truth, which is wild. And part of it also came from like my wife literally told me like, hey, you should look into this book because I've started like thinking of a few concepts that I want to develop that aren't like that, but could learn a lot from what was done in that book. Art perspective and storytelling perspective. And it is wild.
All right. I shall strap myself in and get ready for that.
You should look at that.
Yeah. Your book, Last Wardens, it's due out on, let me just find my notes. It's due out on July 17th. That's quite a ways away. For everyone who wants to check the book out, get yourself down to your local comic book shop. There you have the two. I'll put both codes on there. There are two covers, so your choice. I think both are standard price. I don't think there's like a 1 in 25, so you can pick your poison on that one. They both work very well.
Yeah, they're both great. Zach Howard is our main cover artist, and he keeps upping his game with every issue release. We just saw a preview for issue 4's cover, and it's chef kiss, amazing.
Yeah. Cool. And there's also we're going to be in San Diego Comic-Con, and there's going to be a con exclusive cover that hasn't been shown or announced yet, but there's more coming.
Cool. I will have to book my ticket. I'm not.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Come on.
You need to get over to Thought Bubble. Do Thought Bubble. That's the one.
Okay. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
Mad Cave, you mentioned about the visuals and stuff. This is the Mad Cave Studios website. You have got a full court press going on there for sure. You get to see in the banner there just some of the craziness going on. Interesting. That is just some of the crazy for sure.
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Yeah. 70s grindhouse series.
That's something we Amit and I incorporated into our own social media campaign. Actually, you'll be seeing those posted up on Instagram, Threads, all the social media outlets. But there's some really fun stuff around the corner with that.
Those are the two covers that we were talking about earlier. That's the standard one we've seen already. That's the one we're using for our backdrop. I just like the emotion of this one on the second one.
Yeah, Skylar Partridge.
Yeah, she looks absolutely heartbroken, bless her.
Yeah, I kind of like it has a Carrie vibe to it too.
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents. So I love
with
it.
all the red, definitely.
Right?
Cool. Yeah. And there you go. Zach Howard on cover A and Skylar Partridge on cover B. There you go. July 17th. You must be really looking forward to that date then, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
Yep. It's gonna be fun.
The link for the website is there. Yes, I know it's a long website name. Yes, I know you're going to have to type it in. But it's like, guys, you found the show. You know how it works. Just type Mad Cave Studios in, type in the Last Wardens in the search bar, and it'll take you right there. Like magic or supernatural. I'll put the link I'll put the link at the bottom of the video as well, so you can click on there just to keep everything nice and cool. Right, we're almost out of time, so I normally ask this question. I mean, you've been on the show previously, so you might remember what the question is. We'll go with Elliot first, just because it's his first time.
Okay.
No. Okay, we'll go with Elliot first. 60-second spiel, Elliot. Why should people be checking out The Last Wardens?
It's a combination of all the best things. It's supernatural horror. It's it's you know what? I'll tell you why.
I see what you mean about domain ownership now. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh my god. Putting me on the spot. This is horrifying.
Sorry.
Why you should be the last Wardens.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's a chaotic smorgasbord of ultra-violence.
Right.
How about that? Like, just
that
kicking
works.
that off straight off the top of my head.
Perfect. It's like you're a writer.
Almost like I'm a writer.
Amit, is there anything you'd like to add?
It's powerful, it's emotional, it's stylish, it is a wild ride, and I'm pretty sure that just by checking out the first issue, by the end of it, you'll want to see the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Well said.
Excellent. See, I know which one of you is the PR guy. Okay.
That's my domain expertise, marketing.
Exactly.
There we go.
So there you go. There's the codes again from the Diamond Previews. May 241, 734, and 735 respectively. The Mad Cave Studio link is there if you want even more information about the book and the project. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute blast having you on the show. Thank you so much for spending the time. Amit, thank you for reaching out again, my friend.
Of course, and thank you so much, Johnny. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
You're more than welcome. Nice to meet you, Elliot.
Nice to meet you too.
For the record, I think Elliot won the laughing contest. I don't know, maybe
Probably.
After that 60 seconds, I gotta have something out of this.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. That's it for another show. Don't forget to check out excuse me, the UCPN for all your favorite shows. You saw the trailer for it earlier, the No Prize podcast. And if you like your comics of a certain age, you can always check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. The newest one, it's a Star Wars special. Look, who doesn't like Star Wars? I've been seeing no comments from anybody in the room. I'm not going to touch that one at all. Go on, Elliot.
I was going to say this, like, we're recording this right after, May 4th or whatever. So it's like there's been a slew of that. Yeah. Who loves
Star Wars right now is basically heresy.
Exactly. It's true. Despite the fact that we're both big Star Trek fans. So
I like Star Trek. I like them both. So what I don't get is you have May the 4th, but nobody celebrates Revenge of the 5th. So
yes,
that
or there's a bigger 5th.
Yeah,
there's always a bigger 5th.
Yeah, always.
Wow.
There's always two of them. All right, okay. We've digressed. I've been your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. As always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.shop, all about comic pop culture.